Hi, I'm Ashley, and I'm here with the 2020 Valley Film Festival selection, She and Her. We're here with the writer-producer, Rosie Grace, and director, Nate Hapke. Rosie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how this project came to life?
Absolutely. So I am a writer and producer based out here in Los Angeles. I was very fortunate to go to college with this guy. We had a television business class together, and he was just some know-it-all guy in a group project. Luckily, a couple of years later, we both moved out to LA and got to become friends and realized, hey, you know what might be great is if we start working together. Because I always knew he was an incredibly talented director and very much wanted to work with him in that capacity. And so we got to talking, and we started thinking, okay, well, we want to make this project together. What's the best way to do it? And because I have a background really very much so in writing, and Nate is a writer as well, but also such a talented visual person, we started talking about what kind of stories do we want to tell, and what do we want to make, and where do we want to end up, and that led us to this project.
Great. And Nate, you can tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a little rundown of what this story is about.
Sure. A little bit about myself. I'm an independent filmmaker based in Los Angeles. I've been here for 6.5 years. I have written and or directed 12 short films to date, as well as work full-time on the directing team at Disney ABC's General Hospital. I've won 2 Emmys in my time there so far. I love telling stories. This She and Her was an idea that we sort of came to thinking about what type of story we wanted to tell together. Predominantly the shorts that I had written and or directed prior to this were all about characters that were dealing with grief and trauma. And for me, it was wanting to stay within that wheelhouse and seeing how sort of our styles could blend together. She and Her is this timely and yet timeless tale of 3 professionals in the entertainment industry coming together to move beyond trauma, which is how I wanted to approach it, but it's actually in its realization, this movie about, the Me Too movement and about how sexual assault can affect the individual and how the best ways to move forward beyond that trauma. So me as a man, it's like, how do I find my way in? It was approaching it, trying to figure out who these characters were, how they could work together, and knowing how trauma affects different people. That's how I approached the work with lead actress Carolyn Hennessy, working on the character Poppy Sinclair, and Gwen Hillier and Mackenzie Breeden, who round out the cast I'd worked with 3 times before. It just was, the cast actually came together before we even had the idea for the film.
We're very fortunate in that a lot of the time with our collaborations, we know that we have this incredible team of actors who like to just come play and bring things to life with us. So often we're able to write knowing who we have. Like Nate came to me and said, hey, I just saw Carolyn in a play. And Nate works with Carolyn because his day job is that he is an Emmy-winning production associate at General Hospital. He works on the directing team there. And he had worked with Carolyn and he had seen her in a play, and he came back and he's like, okay, so we're talking about making something together. Carolyn is phenomenal. We have to do something with her. I would love to work with her.
And it was amazing timing because I went to go see her in Masterclass. She played Maria Callas. And I bought my ticket online, and it was at the Gary Marshall Theater in Burbank, and there were no assigned seats, when you bought it online, and I show up to the theater, and my ticket was in the front row, and I was 5 feet away from this person who I'd always respected as an artist at work, but I'd never seen her dive that deeply into a character who was dealing with, her own sort of loss of self over time, and she was so captivating for 2 hours. And so I told Rosie about that experience, and I was like, I need to work with her. And it was really cool because I invited a bunch of the actors from the show to come to the film festival premiere for One More, which was actually in the Valley Film Festival that year. And Carolyn Hennessy came to that screening, and the first thing she said after that was, when are we working together? So I was like, okay, good, it's mutual. So I went to Rosie, and we had our ensemble cast. We figured out, the type of story that we wanted to tell, and obviously we wanted to tell it really, tastefully as much as possible. And we kept the focus on the victim of what happened, and the people who, you know, come together to help her move beyond that trauma. We didn't want to show the abuser. We didn't want to keep it about him. We mentioned him by name twice, but it's not about him. We both felt like we had seen that type of story before, so we wanted to kind of really keep it about these people and how you move forward in the most healthy way possible. So.
And for me, the heart of that was really grounding it in female friendship. I think so often you see these stories and they feel exploitative because it feels like we're, you know, living in the pain of the characters rather than looking at who they are outside of this one experience. And so we really wanted to look at how did this event not only shape their paths, but shape their relationships, because you have this sort of mentor relationship between Poppy and the young actress who wants to tell her story. You have a complicated friendship between this producer, Addie, who was from Poppy's past. They were good friends, and you see them dealing with their baggage and really wanting to delve into those human moments and those relationship moments, because those are so much more about who we are rather than what has happened to us.
Yeah. Well, I think you did a really strong, really powerful job of making that come across on screen. It was really nice to see all females on screen dealing with an important subject matter. And I just thought it was kind of like a chess game in a little bit of a way, because there was just this nice back and forth between everybody, and it was very fluid, and there was, like, the stakes were very high, and the material was very intense, but also just very fluid, and I really liked that about it. You started the opening with this really powerful push-in, this silent, dramatic push-in, and then it just kind of, the weight is still there, but it kind of lifts a little bit because you've got this funny banter as well. I thought they were really nice matches for each other. Did the two lead actors dye their hair at all? That's kind of a random question.
That's it's really funny because this goes back to the inception of the piece, which was when Nate was saying that he wanted to work with Carolyn. Another person we were talking about wanting to work with was our friend Mackenzie Breeden. Yeah. And we were talking about the kind of story we could tell with the two of them. And Mac, at the time, was dyeing her hair red. I believe she's back to brunette now, but at the time she was dyeing her hair red.
She's actually back to red now.
There you go.
But she did go back to her roots of brunette for about 6 months.
Yeah, she was a redhead at the time, and we were looking at her and Carolyn, and we're like, okay, this is actually giving us a chance to do something really cool, because I had actually originally envisioned this specific piece as a play. You can kind of probably tell a little bit from the staging of it. That was what it sparked into my mind as being, because I loved this idea of, you don't know if Maddie is really, if she's playing herself when she's younger, if she's playing Poppy when she's younger, if she's playing every woman. It's sort of,
or if she's playing Poppy in the movie that they're planning to make right now, and whether or not you're watching footage from that film.
The idea is that you don't know, and that you play with that ambiguity, because it leans into the idea of, unfortunately, this experience is a very universal one. And while every person's story is unique, there are shared experiences that, unfortunately, while traumatic, can bind us all together. And that sort of is mirrored in the title, She and Her, and the idea of the individual versus the collective experience.
Definitely. Did you write this before the Me Too movement, or right as that was happening, or after?
It was sort of right in the middle, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I had been kicking around this idea a little bit before it was breaking, and then it really became fleshed out when things started to break with that. And I remember Nate and I talking about what kind of movie we wanted to make, and him saying, like, I want to do something. I hate that this is happening, and I want to do something. And this gave us a really incredible channel to do that.
And obviously, I mean, we really wanted to be sensitive, because, you know, the relationships and the experience that's in there, it's all dramatized. Like, it's not based on a true story or anything along those lines, but it was inspired by everything that was going on. And we didn't want to tell this story in an exploitative way, because it just felt gross to do it that way. So we really wanted to do it in a very sensitive, very human focused way. And I think we pulled that off, because it's like any moment that the project felt exploitative of the moment, we just sort of pulled back and said, no, that's not the right approach. So that was always like the notes that we kept on giving each other were like, hold on, no, let's pivot over here, keep it about this.
We never wanted to build notoriety for ourselves off the pain of other women. No. We didn't want it to seem like, oh, we're just jumping on the bandwagon and making a sexual harassment movie. Yeah. Like, that was not our intention at all. So we wanted to be respectful where we could.
Cool. I really like that line where she says that she thinks Poppy was silenced, and she wants, well, that whole silenced line, I just really liked it. I thought that was very, like, the through line of the whole piece, wanting her story to be told. Because yeah, like you've said, like, so many people have gone through this, whether they're men or women, like, and it's prominent in the entertainment industry, unfortunately, but it's also prominent in other industries. And it's really, I think it's a really great step to take to make this film, to start pushing through those boundaries and breaking down walls. What was your favorite part of filming this film?
It's a great question. My personal, do you mind if
No, you go first.
My personal favorite part of filming this was probably working with the ensemble. Just 3 incredibly talented actors who trusted me in how I wanted to visually tell the story, and how, especially me, as I said earlier, I mean, I'm a man telling this story, and they didn't question the choices that I was making. They didn't, I do my best on any set that I'm directing to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and safe, and especially in a project like this, it was so crucial to make sure that happened. And for me, I always set out to be enriched by the experience of creating with my talent, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera. And this is one of those projects that it felt like lightning in a bottle, and the chemistry between all 3 of them was just incredible. And they all brought it. And the way that I schedule things, there isn't a lot of time. We shot this in pretty much a day and a half. It's all natural lighting with some bounce. And that's like some fill light and some filters, but that's it. And it just was a quick, fast pace, that if there was anything that really wasn't working, would have stuck out like a sore thumb. And thankfully the 3 of them came, and they were so dedicated to the characters, and it made me feel, I felt so enriched by that. And that was really my favorite part of it, was working with the 3 of them.
It was amazing because the conversations that Nate and I had with the cast on this one were so cool, because the script implies so much.
Yeah.
I don't love super overt writing. I like that sort of hinting at it, playing with it, letting the audience piece it together, and trusting them to be smart enough to do it. But because of that, we really wanted to be clear with our actors. So we really sat down, and we had these really intense backstories about, who they were and what they did. And especially Carolyn and Gwen, who play Poppy and Addie, they're friends in real life. Mm-hmm. And so it was so fun to see them work out little things for their characters, like the idea of, like, you see the scenes of the 2 of them drinking out of one wine glass. And Carolyn pitched this thing that, like, what if this went back to when we were friends and we were just starting out, and we couldn't afford anything, so we just sit on the floor and pass a glass of wine back and forth. And, like, watching all of us build out that world together was just amazing.
Yeah.
And then selfishly, though, I think my favorite part was not counting like college projects or anything. I've worked in a lot of support roles in the industry, but this was the first time I was really making something that I had written, rather than just, leaving another script in a pile in a filing cabinet. So to sit on set that first day and to watch the monitor in Video Village and to hear people saying the words I had written, I actually teared up. Like, our script supervisor was next to me, patting me on the shoulder, because, like, oh my God, they're saying my words and they're putting so much effort into it, and I can't believe it's happening. So that was a big favorite part of mine as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I can just jump on really quickly, like, I guess I would say my second favorite part of making the movie was the first time, because you were not on set the first day in your apartment, right? Because you were in the other.
We shot the first day in an apartment, and it was so tiny. It's my apartment, actually. And we couldn't fit our whole crew in there while we were filming. So we had a friend of mine who lived in the building, wasn't in her apartment that day, and she let us use it as, like, hair and makeup and holding. Yeah. So I wasn't even technically on set the first day. I was in the other room because I was helping with all of that.
But the second day, where we were in the house, which was the majority of the film, I had the amazing privilege of being next to her in Video Village and seeing her just light up at the monitor, because she's wearing the headphones, so she's hearing everything. And I was like, this was good. I'm really glad. It just was nice, because I was like, I'm really glad we did this, because that reaction was cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, from an acting perspective myself, I think you guys sound like a really great filmmaking team, like an actors love to work with the people that are really going to dig deep into the material with them. So that's really exciting. From a production standpoint, what was the biggest challenge in making this film?
So the nice part is, I will say, we didn't have to worry too much because Nate has a really great strategy when it comes to making short films, which is essentially write what you can make. So many people, I know myself included, have gotten hung up on things where it's like, we're writing this thing with this huge set piece and this massive budget that we can't create. Whereas when we set out to write this, we very much knew it was write something that we can shoot in 2 days, write something that we can shoot with 3 actors, you know, keep the locations minimal. So for that, it was actually really great. I will say one challenge, as much as we loved the set, which was one of our actresses' houses, it was really close to Burbank Airport. Yeah. And so our poor sound guy would be standing there holding the headphones on. We'd be in the middle of this super emotional scene, and all of a sudden you just hear him say, "Hold for plane."
Oh my God.
Wait, and we wait until it was, and we're clear. And then the actors would have to jump right back into that without missing a beat. So that was very much, very much
big production.
Yeah, a little bit of like a be patient, stay in the moment, and luckily everyone was great through it. That would be my answer.
You would never know because it was so fluid, I think.
That's good to hear.
My biggest sort of production challenge, I guess, was trying to, I mean, the way that we had planned it out, thankfully it went off very seamlessly, but in terms of planning the day, it was a little bit stressful because, like I said, we were shooting natural light, and my DP and the gaffer set up this really amazing sheet that really filled the entire, that dining room area with, you know, fill light that at least allowed for a resemblance of light that kept going throughout the entire day. That was the biggest thing, was just sort of following the angle of the sun. But thankfully, because of the pace that we were moving at, and because of the way that I blocked it out with like, okay, now we're doing Carolyn's coverage, now we're doing Gwen's coverage, now we're doing Mac's coverage. Because a lot of it was shot reverse shot. I mean, the only time that you ever have 2 characters in the same frame is, you know, 2 shots. One, you know, at the very end of the movie, and then the other one is that my favorite shot in the whole movie is where Carolyn has closed the door behind Gwen and she's crossing down, and Gwen says, "I don't know what I was expecting, but it's different." And then you pan to Carolyn says, "It's my home." It's just stuff like that was like the biggest kind of challenge, was just making sure that we could get everything that I wanted, because I also cut my own stuff, so I know exactly what I need for the edit, and I also don't overshoot, so I always shoot exactly what I need, and so if we don't get a shot, it's like, oh, then I'm just not going to have that shot. It's not like I can make something else work. So thankfully, a really great producing team on this one, and so it really helped with scheduling the day. And putting me at ease. But that was the most stressful thing, was just like the angle of the sun. Please stop moving.
We also did have one little scare, which was that, when you permit a location, you have to notify, especially if it's a house, you have to notify the neighbors that you're going to be filming, and make sure that people have a window in which they can say, hey, we're not comfortable with this. And so we had put flyers in the mailboxes of all the nearby homes. And the day before we shot, we got a call from this very kind lady who was letting us know. And she was saying, hey, just so you know, totally great that you're filming. We're right across the street, and we're having an outdoor birthday party for my child with a bouncy castle. Yeah. And we're looking at each other like, oh no, is the sound going to be a thing? Are we going to hear it? We were so nervous, and fortunately ended up working out, went off without a hitch. But there was this moment where we were joking about, like, someone's going to have to go toss a handful of thumbtacks on the lawn so that the we obviously would not actually do that, but there was a brief moment of, oh no.
Yeah. And these are the things that you have to work through as independent filmmakers.
Oh, very much.
All the time.
Because you've got the equipment for one day, you've got the cast for one day, you've got the crew for one day. You don't.
And that's all that we had budgeted for. I mean, this project was self-funded, so it was like whatever we don't get, we don't have. Mm-hmm. But we made it work.
Yeah.
Hear that.
Yeah, great. I mean, we've talked for a little bit longer than we expected to talk, but I'm really glad that you've been able to share all of this information with us. A couple of last questions. You both work in the entertainment industry as professionals, and then you shoot your own films outside of that. I'm a really big fan of that line of work. Obviously, you have a lot of filmmakers or talent or people who are like, no, I can't work in the industry. I have to work in something else and then do my craft. Can you give any advice on like working on how you feel about working in the industry and also shooting your own material, or what you think is positive about that? Because so many people, I feel like, are so afraid to take that risk because they're afraid they're going to be known as XYZ instead of being known as an actor or known as a director. What, do you have any thoughts on that?
You so much,
yeah, if you don't mind.
just because of everything you've learned from.
Yeah, I mean, I am someone who looks at any opportunity as a learning opportunity, and it's just something that I can make the most of. I was fortunate enough to study at Syracuse University. They have a Los Angeles program out here, study abroad. And my internship during that semester was at General Hospital, and it became, that was the fall of my junior year. It became my internship between junior and senior year. And then when I graduated, it was like, June 1st, come work for us, which was amazing. And since then I've been promoted 3 times. And, here I am as a DGA production associate on the directing team. And it's been such an incredible learning opportunity for me. I mean, am I nervous about being known specifically for that and having that stigma sort of around me? Absolutely. But at the same time, it's like, I can either let that define me or just say like, oh, that's what other people think, and I know what's true about myself. And what I know about myself is that there are so many things that I've learned from my time at General Hospital, from the directors there, specifically one who has been an incredible mentor to me. Just in terms of preparation and efficiency of communicating information in my director scripts and how I prepare my material, knowing, and also just the confidence of knowing like what we're capable of doing in any given day, that has completely changed. And it's what has allowed me.
People are stunned by what Nate and I both have backgrounds in soaps, and people are shocked by what we'll tell them we'll shoot in a day, because soap operas move at such a pace. And Nate and I are like, oh, we can do that in a day. And everyone on our crew is like, we can do what in a day? We're like, no, we can't. We can do it in a day.
Yeah.
Because you shoot like 60 pages in a day, right?
We shoot like 60 pages before lunch. So we shoot about 120 pages of dialogue a day.
That's amazing.
It's pretty awesome. So, for me as an independent filmmaker, when I first moved to LA, I would shoot a 12-page short in 3 days. It would take me 3 or 4 days. But now, that we can do in 1 or 1.5 days. And that's planning, that's prep, that's also having that sort of producer and prep hat on when I'm writing. And when I'm working with another writer, being like, hey, these are the limitations within which you can tell your story. And then she's like, oh, that's awesome. Because a lot of inspiration comes from that. So in terms of having a job in the industry, I love it because I have benefited so much from my specific role that has strengthened me as a storyteller, I believe, and has only allowed me to tell more stories because I'm able to write things that are viable and producible and do it in a really efficient way. So that's my thing.
And just to add on to that, the end of the day, sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing, but so much of this industry and so much of getting stuff made is who you know. Yeah. And the more you work in the industry, the more people you're going to meet. Like, I look at our amazing teams that we have on these projects, from the cast to the crew, and it's how many of them have come through connections of people we've known at work, you know? How many of our actors have come from people that Nate's been able to work with on General Hospital? How many of our, we have an incredible sound editor who we also met through you being at General Hospital. So all of these pieces kind of come together, all of these referrals, all of these, things that allow you to move forward. I also, like Nate said, there's so much to learn. So much of my quote unquote day jobs involve either script consulting, or I've script coordinated, or anything I've done has usually revolved around writing and reading scripts in some capacity. And as a writer, the one piece of advice I will give is, more than reading guidebooks, more than, studying format, more than any of that, just read scripts. It's all like, you will soak up the tone and the pace and the formatting and the structure if you just read scripts. And if you can find a job where you're reading scripts, you're doing your homework while you're already there.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Why don't you share a little bit about what's next for you?
Thank you.
What's going on right now?
So since shooting She and Her, we actually have 2 more shorts that we've already shot that are on the festival circuit right now, and that we're actually hoping to have at the Valley Film Festival next year. The short that we shot right after that was To the Moon and Back. I wrote and directed, Rosie produced. It's a story of a man who is tasked with eulogizing his own mother, and in the moments before he has to do that, he finds solace in the presence of his wife and daughter, which was a pre-catharsis for me as a writer. As one of my biggest fears in life is what that moment is going to be like when my mother passes away. She's been an incredible influence and support for me in journey as an individual, as a human being, but also as a creative. And so that was really a love letter to her, and also helped me see a healthy path forward when that whole thing happens. And then after that, we
went a bit in a different direction. You know, everything we had done had been so drama and heavy that we ended up changing gears, and we made a rom-com. It's called Rideshare, and it's the story of two friends and their evolving relationship, all told through moments in the back of a shared Uber or Lyft.
Yep.
And that was so fun. So those were our last two short projects, and now we're gearing up to make sort of an anthology of 3 short films that we wrote during quarantine. Yep. With safety in mind and with human connection in mind. Yep. So we're looking at filming those in November.
We got 2 in November and 1 in December. Mm-hmm. And then we are hoping to shoot our first feature, which is called 2-11 next
year.
Summer. So.
Oh, congratulations. That's really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next from you guys, and all of those projects sound awesome. Thank you for sharing your work with us, and it was really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks you guys.
Bye.
Bye.